Vanderbilt has the chance to prove all the doubters wrong in the Reliaquest Bowl.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all of that good stuff. Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and I bring with me over a decade of experience in coaching and with the national sports media at Yahoo Sports. Now, on this episode, it's basically a what to watch for episode. There's a lot of storylines in this bowl game. We're going to talk about it. Does anybody have the special teams edge? Does Vandy have the special teams edge? Where does it lie? All that good stuff. We're going to talk about that. How does Vanderbilt's defense make Iowa one-dimensional? We're gonna discuss that as well. Eli Stowers is an opt-out, so how does this offense function without him? What is it going to look like? All that stuff. That's a major storyline for this offense and for Diego Pavia as well. How does it function? But ultimately, this is a statement game for Vanderbilt. This is a chance for the Commodores to atone for or to send a message to the selection committee and saying, hey, we should have been in the playoffs, not James Madison. They're going to have a chance to make that statement, and this will be a prime opportunity to do so. So that's our action-packed show right there. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So let's get into it. Like I said, thanks for making us your first listen. Thanks for being a part of it. Thank you to the everydayers out there that make this show what it is. This is going to be a fun game. I've been saying this from minute one. As soon as the bowl selection was made, I think this is the best non-playoff bowl in the series. Sure, Tennessee, Illinois is going to be an interesting game. Texas, Michigan lost a lot of luster when Sharon Moore got arrested and all that stuff. So like that game, the edge of that game just kind of went way down. I predict Texas is going to thrash Michigan. So that game just got way less exciting. But this game is Vanderbilt was a playoff team. They had a chance to get in 10-2 in the SEC, got snubbed. This is their chance to tell the committee that they were wrong. It's like that Michael Jordan meme from The Last Dance. And I took that personally. Like seemed like he took everything personally, but that's a different story for a different day. But these are some of the things to watch for. We're going to touch on all of these throughout the show. But I want to touch on number one, because there's a lot here as far as what is at stake for this game and the impact of this game. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia have a chance to make a huge statement here, and that's kind of the storyline. That's kind of probably the main overarching storyline, because if Vanderbilt comes out, and they have the chance to do so, but Iowa's going to make it Iowa's going to make it difficult, obviously. But if they can somehow get a chance to make this a lopsided game, if they can go out and prove, okay, if they can dominate the game from start to finish, they can really prove to the committee they belonged in the college football playoff. They could have made a better game with Oregon than James Madison, or a better game with Ole Miss than Tulane. Like, those are some of the games that you look at and say, okay, well, maybe they were more deserving. Maybe they could have, because I think the ultimate goal is the best 12 teams, and Vanderbilt can prove that they're one of the best 12 teams with a big win over Iowa. Now, Diego Pavia as well. I mean, all the stuff that's been surrounding him, this is a chance for him to make a statement. With all the negative publicity around him, with all the Heisman stuff, I'm not going to drum that right all the way back up. But him not winning the award, his response afterward, this is a chance for him to make a statement in that regard of saying, A, I deserved it and he can say that by having a huge game, and B, how he leads his teammates, how he responds in the media stuff leading up to it can kind of repair a little bit of that damage that was caused in the aftermath of the Heisman. So he has a chance to really make a statement for himself, and he's playing for, a spot in the NFL. Basically, he is trying to prove to the scouts that he is worthy to play in the NFL. And this is a defense that will allow him to prove that, because Iowa's defense is pretty good. They're physical. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and they're going to force him to make throws into tight windows. They're going to force him to play like an NFL quarterback to beat him. And if he can, that'll go a long way into proving, okay, well, maybe he does belong in the NFL. But for Vanderbilt as a whole, they can prove that this season wasn't a fluke, because they're going to be missing one of their best pieces in Eli Stowers. They can say, okay, hey, we do have a team that can survive without its key piece, right? We do have some depth. We do have some talented guys on this roster. We can make a difference. And this is the step in the direction of, hey, this thing is not a fluke, and Vanderbilt has some staying power. So they can actually prove that point a little bit by scoring points on offense without their number one piece in Eli Stowers. And they can prove that, hey, we're going to get to this historic 11-win mark, and we're going to just continue to put these positive stamps on the season. We're going to continue to hit these historic marks in this season, so that we can use that to build our foundation for the next era of Vanderbilt football, which is going to be, for all intents and purposes, the Jared Curtis era. So they have guys that are going to be able to prove that they belong on the field. Like, there's going to be some position battles, like the tight end position especially. There's going to be some guys rotating in. I imagine there's going to be a lot of rotation with the receivers, trying to find, okay, who fits in there. Junior Sherrill and Trey Richardson are coming back. Presumably those two are pretty locked in, especially Trey Richardson. It's who's going to join them, who's going to be, you're going to see some rotation stuff as well. You're going to see some guys get some snaps. And I imagine bowl practices have been and will continue to be ultra competitive to kind of put some of those guys into the fire. Maybe some of the young receivers that are coming in as early enrollees, maybe they have a chance to step in and make a difference next season. Obviously, they won't be able to play in the game, but they will be able to showcase at practice with all the other enrollees and mix in with the team and some one-on-one periods and stuff like that. So that's a chance for this team on both sides of the ball for guys to kind of prove they belong in certain spots, like Dante Carter. He's a guy that, he wants more playing time. He wants to prove that he's the number one free safety, and he wants the chance to fit into this defense. A lot of it's going to be for him. A lot of it's going to be getting in the weight room and getting bigger, stronger, faster, because he is still like that big around. But he is somebody that's going to need to prove something in this bowl game. A lot of defenders, a lot of those defensive line guys are going to be battling for more time, for more recognition, things like that. You're going to have some guys that are leaving, that are thinking about going to the next level. They're going to try to get some good tape out there. So a lot to prove, a lot of statements can be made with this game. But the overarching statement is this: Vanderbilt is no fluke, and this is a culture that's built to last. And that's going to make a statement to anybody in the portal looking for an SEC home and thinking, and the original prevailing thought is Vanderbilt is not the place to go because they're a bottom dweller, and you only go there if you have to. But Vanderbilt has a chance in this bowl game to make the statement that Vanderbilt is a desirable place to go. It is a program that you want to play in because of everything, not just the football aspect of it, the education, the city in which it resides, Nashville, NIL possibilities, things like that. And you're walking into a football team that has phenomenal culture, that has a great nucleus of leaders. It's being led phenomenally at the top by Clark Lee, and even higher up with Candace Lee and Chancellor Diermeyer. So it's a very, very positive experience, and they have a chance to really make that statement on New Year's Eve. They're the first bowl game of the day, so not a lot of people will be out and about probably at that hour, and they'll get a chance. That's kind of on like New Year's Eve. That's kind of the prime slot for a bowl game, is that noon or 11 a.m. Local time slot. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun bowl game. It's going to be physical. Vanderbilt's going to be well tested which if they can win this game and if they can win it handily and be in control, this game will garner a lot of respect because Iowa is a well-respected team. They're that team that's like right on the edge of the upper echelon. They're kind of right in that middle tier of the Big Ten. They're always right there in striking distance. They've won the division a couple of years, or they've won a division on a few occasions and played in the Big Ten title game on a few occasions. Like that's kind of where they're at. They just kind of jump into that upper tier every once in a while, but they're kind of teetering on that edge. And they're probably one of the most consistent programs in the Big Ten, if not in the country. So when it comes to a respected win, you got to win here. You're going to garner some respect because not only are you beating a Big Ten team, you're beating a consistent winner in the Big Ten in the Iowa Hawkeyes. So I'm very, very intrigued by this matchup. I'm glad this was the matchup. The only other matchup I think could have worked. Obviously, if you get Michigan, that's a blue blood. Obviously, you want to get matched up against Michigan and beat them, which I think they're very beatable right now, extremely beatable because of what's going on. But the only other matchup you could have gotten, I think that would have been respected in bowl circles is Illinois. And I don't think you wanted to play in the Music City Bowl. So that's a bullet that you dodged there because you want to go to a Florida Bowl. You want to get the respect of, hey, maybe we'll let Vanderbilt travel this time in their bowl game. So, and they got that respect at the very least. So, but this offense, it's going to be very important that they figure out how to function without Eli Stowers. He opted out of the bowl game, which nobody blames him. I wish he was playing, but I think everybody in the world understands why he opted out, and everybody's wishing him well. But how does this offense function without him? We'll talk about that next. FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. If you're betting on these bowl games, like I said, Iowa, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is 5.5-point favorites. The over/under is 47.5. If you want to do anything with those numbers, if you're going to bet alongside me, I'm going to take Vanderbilt to cover plus the under. I'm going to take a same game parlay. I'm going to take Vandy at -5.5 and the under. Okay. So with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. So I might even come back into this game and bet it live. I'm going to bet some of these NFL games this weekend. I'm going to bet them live as well because live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. You get a receiver that gets hot, you get a defense that tightens up, or a momentum flip after a turnover. All of that stuff, you can take advantage of it because the live spreads and money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props update as well, so you can get in on that. And they have these things called quick bets. Like you can bet who's going to score the next touchdown. What does this drive result in? Different totals. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. And the NFL is moving extremely fast towards the playoffs. So get in on the action while you can. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. If you need a second listen, right on over there to Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy. Does a phenomenal job covering the league as a whole. Also, if you're an everydayer, why not take the next step? Why not upgrade yourself? Because right here at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer, you can join the Everydayer Club, or you can go to lockedonvandy.supercast.com, and that'll get you right to where you want to go. If you go to the link that's on the screen, you'll have to search a little bit, but if you go to lockedonvandy.supercast.com, you can get there right away. You can be an Everydayer Club member. You get access to ad-free audio, which is phenomenal if you're driving around and you don't like to listen to ads. And you get exclusive members-only access to the Discord channel. And there's a lot of other things you get as well. On the video side, there's a list of perks that you get with the Everydayer Club. So make sure you sign up. $5 a month, $50 a year, whichever option you choose. It's the way to go if you want those perks and you want to be able to chance to interact with Locked On hosts and other members of the Everydayer Club. So make sure you join that and make sure you take advantage. So Speaking of taking advantage, Iowa has a chance to take advantage of Vanderbilt's offense without Eli Stowers. So the question is for Vanderbilt, how do they function? Like that's the key question when Diego Pavia in this offense takes the field, because Diego Pavia has a lot to prove in this game, but he's going to have to do it without Eli Stowers. So can he shift? Because in the NFL, if he gets a chance to play in the NFL, guys are going to get hurt. He may go in with different rotations in the preseason. If he's trying to make a ball club, he's going to have to go in with different sets of receivers, different personnel groups and things like that, other guys that are trying to make the team, and the chemistry is not going to be there. So how does he function without his security blanket in Eli Stowers? And that question is simple, but it's not easy. Okay. It's simple, but it's not easy. Obviously it's simple because, hey, let's just run more with Cedric Alexander and MK Young. Let's focus on Trey Richardson and Junior Sherrill more. Let's get Bryson Coleman integrated into the game. If we want to go 12 personnel, we can go Bryson Coleman and Cole Spence. If not, get Cole Spence. He's a better inline blocker. Like there's a lot of options, and it's pretty simple, but it's not easy to do because I think Iowa's defense is going to play to that, because the void that Eli Stowers leaves in the middle of the field and the things that he does, especially on third down, Iowa's defense knows that doesn't exist for Vanderbilt. And they know that this security blanket does not exist for Diego Pavia. So they're going to try to take advantage of that. And they're going to try to roll their coverages. They're going to try to get extra pressure on Pavia to force him to make a decision that normally he goes to Stowers, but now he's going to have other options. So it's not natural to him. I mean, obviously they've been working on it in practice, I'm sure. But again, still when the heat is on, those aren't natural things, right? And so he's just going to have to get used to Cole Spence maybe being that guy. Bryson Coleman maybe being that guy who he hasn't thrown too much this season. Junior Sherrill's going to have to step up a little bit better. Trey Richardson, they're going to have to figure out ways to feature him more, because I think outside of Eli Stowers, he was probably the second most featured pass catcher in this offense as far as running jet sweeps, screens, shot plays down the field, things like that. With Trey Richardson, I think you run into all of that stuff with this offense. That hey, maybe you unlock that Jared Curtis chapter of this playbook, and you see what guys fit in different roles with that. And Diego Pavia is going to be your passer, and maybe they carve out a role for Blaze Berlowitz to get him some looks. As far as this quarterback competition goes, maybe get him some live looks in the game as well. I don't know if they're going to do that. That's another story for another day. But winning the game is first and foremost. So they're going to play the starters, the normal starters, as long as possible. If they can get some extra guys in, they're going to do so. But they're not going to do it at the expense of a victory here, because they want to get to 11 wins for Vanderbilt is very key in this scenario. Maybe years later, hopefully they get to a point where it's not, but as of right now, getting to that 11th win is paramount. So, but you're going to have to do things a little differently. You're going to have to run the ball a lot more, which you're capable of, because your offensive line is pretty talented. They were a Joe Moore Award semifinalist. They didn't make it to the finalist list, but they were a semifinalist, just barely missing the cut there. And they've got an NFL center who's going to be somebody that's featured on day 2 of the NFL draft, if you want my honest opinion on Jordan White. But they're just going to have to feed Cedric Alexander more, MK Young more, which are going to be key pieces to this offense if you're trying to. And this is presuming that Jared Curtis wins the job, which, for all practical purposes, I think he will. So if you have a true freshman quarterback, you're going to have a run game to lean on, and featuring SETI, featuring MK is going to be the thing to do. And having some easy throws built in to get Diego into a rhythm to where he's not trying to play hero ball, because that's a concern of mine, is Diego going out there and trying to play hero ball because of everything that's happened, and he wants to put the game on his back. Like, he's a ultra competitive guy. That's the thing that you worry about with him, because when he plays in that mode, he almost goes too far, and he ends up getting careless with the ball, getting reckless with the ball. and ends up turning it over like he did in the Alabama game. So if he stays within himself and plays his game, this should be a pretty comfortable win for Vanderbilt. But if he doesn't, that's where it gets trouble, and that's where the advantage would then swing into Iowa's favor. So it's just getting involved in those other weapons. Trey Richardson is going to be the most featured piece in the passing game for this offense. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. They're going to put him in similar routes and similar positions that they once put Eli Stowers in. They're just going to do it from a different angle. They're going to be able to accomplish a lot of similar things with Trey Richardson because he's a dynamic piece to this offense, and he's going to be somebody that I think is going to be featured heavily in the pass game outside of what you're going to see in the run game with Alexander and Young and some of the other running backs that may get into the rotation as well. So look for that. Look for Trey Richardson. That's probably the key piece. I think Junior Sherrill is going to get an uptick in production based on the targets that are lost from Eli Stowers. I think are going to be split, probably a 60-40, 65-35 split between Richardson and Junior Sherrill. As far as that goes. So I'm excited to see what this offense does. I'm curious to see what Tim Beck does without Stowers. That's a massive piece that's gone. And you're just going to have to do things a little bit differently. How does Diego Pavia adjust? I can't wait to see that. And that's going to be the biggest question. I think he'll adjust just fine. I don't see any issues there as far as him being able to adjust. It's just going out there and executing it. It may be a little bit slow at the start, but it could be something that he could just kind of settle into and say, okay, well, now I'm in a rhythm. We're good to go. It might be a little rocky the first couple series, but then he'll get but with the layoff and the missing Eli Stowers piece, it'll be rocky at the start, but he'll be able to get ingrained into the offense. No problem whatsoever. So, but defense, their job is to make Iowa one-dimensional. They have to do that. This is the best offensive line in the country. They're going to dictate a lot of things for the Hawkeyes and Mark Gronowski. So how do you combat that? Well, you make Iowa one-dimensional and force Gronowski to beat you as a passer. How does Vanderbilt do that? We'll talk about it next. First, I want to talk about Game Time. There's nothing like the college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Now, I opened the Game Time app and looked at upcoming college football games like the Reliaquest Bowl with Vanderbilt and was surprised how fast it was to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. And I loved being able to see my view from the seat before buying, so I knew exactly what I was getting. The zone deal stood out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. And the view from my seat thing, I've heard horror stories about people, especially going to baseball games where they buy a ticket and they don't know, but it's an obstructed view. Like a friend of mine went to a Yankees game and sat right behind a pole, like right behind a support beam, and he had to like look around like this around the pole to see the game from the outfield seat. So if he had Game Time, he would have been able to know that, and he wouldn't have bought that seat. But seeing college football tickets starting as low as $25 made it easy to plan a game day trip. Knowing prices include all fees up front makes the whole process very, very, very stress-free. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen, and thanks for making Locked On number one. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. So thank you. Now, we're talking storylines here for this game, and I want to talk defense and special teams real quick. Probably more focused on defense than special teams. But for Iowa, they have the best offensive line in the country. They won the Joe Moore Award. They have a center that won the Remington. Like, it doesn't get a whole lot better than that as far as collective recognition for the most important position, maybe on the field, is your offensive line. So this is going to be an absolute battle because of that. And I think Iowa's going to be able to stay in the game because their offensive line is so dominant. I think they're going to be able to keep possession, whether they score on every possession or not. That's a different story, but that clock will be ticking a little bit. And this will be a game that's going to put a lot of pressure on Vanderbilt to score because they know if they don't score, it's kind of like what Vanderbilt does to other teams where they hold the ball and they eat up that time of possession. And it puts a lot of pressure on the other team. Iowa does the same exact thing. So it's like almost like I've been saying, for that reason, it's like looking into a mirror for Vanderbilt. So they have to kind of beat Iowa at their own game. They have to out Vandy Iowa, and Iowa's going to out Iowa Vandy, if that makes sense. You can follow that. If you want to try to follow that, you can. It's a tongue twister too. So how did they do that? Well, Vanderbilt has to make Iowa one-dimensional, which means they're going to have to, because Iowa wants to run the ball with Moulton, with Gronowski. They want to run the ball. They want to run it right down Broadway. They want to run it right down your throat. And they want to, they want to get 4-5 yards of carry. And then they want to do that over a 14-play drive that's going to probably eat up 10 to 12 minutes. Like they could eat up an entire quarter if you let them. And they would be just fine with eating up a quarter and going and putting 7 on the board and putting a lot of pressure on you because their defense thrives on that, like turnovers and takeaways and things like that. So how do you make Iowa one-dimensional? Well, you have to sell out against the run. And you have to trust that your DBs can cover, which I think with Iowa's offense and I think with Iowa's wide receivers, you have you have a variety of Reese Vanderzee and you have Jacob Gill, I think are 2 really good pass catchers on the outside. And then you have their tight end, DJ V. I'm going to say V. I'm not even going to try his last name at this point. But you have a tight end that makes a ton of plays, and you have 2 receivers that can make a lot of plays as well. So you're going to have to do a great job in coverage, but you're really going to have to, if you can shut down the run, you can throw some pressures at Mark Gronowski because Mark Gronowski is a passer, is pretty good, but he's not elite. And his accuracy can be an issue at sometimes, and he can sail the ball. And there's some chances for some interceptions, maybe some sack fumbles as Mark Gronowski tries to maneuver around the pocket with pressure. Like it is possible to get pressure on this team. You have to bring it. A lot of times the pressure I saw was off of play action where you had guys coming off the back edge there against their run because they'll try to full stretch run it, and then Gronowski will just get spooked and try to run around and create back there. He's not quite as good as Pavia at that. He is a national champion. He is a gamer. He is very competitive, and he can do that. But I think if you can force the game into his hands and make him beat you, this is where your chance is. Because if you let Iowa sit there and run the ball, Mark Gronowski is not going to have to beat you. Mark Gronowski, if you let Iowa be successful in the run game, Mark Gronowski could be like 11 of 19 for 140 yards and a touchdown. Like you could have that stat line and win the game. Whereas if you have that same stat line, but the rushing total is like 150 and not 265, I think you're looking at a pretty good bit of separation between Vanderbilt and Iowa. And it's going to be all about that run defense. And that run defense is going to have to clog run lanes. They're going to have to force the backs to run laterally. And because I think this defense is faster than Iowa, but this offensive line is just so good that they just engulf you and road grade you. And so you have to beat that with speed. You have to put bodies in gaps. You have to blitz. You have to slant. Like you're going to have to get aggressive and get aggressive downhill, and then hope that your cornerbacks can hold up in one-on-one coverage. And your pressures can get there if they do pull the ball on an RPO or a play action. And you have to be able to hope that you can get there to Mark Gronowski and force him into bad throws and poor throws. So that's the way you do it. You sell out against the run. And then the special teams edge, real quick, I think Vanderbilt has the edge. I think I'm going to take the rocket launcher from a kicking perspective. Punting, I don't think there's going to be a ton of punting for Vanderbilt in this game. It's okay. It's good enough. Just don't punt to Wetjen. Do not punt to him. He's electric. He's dynamic. He's the best return specialist in Iowa football history. And that history includes a guy named Tim Dwight. For those of you familiar with football history, probably one of the greatest punt returners in college football ever. And he had a really nice career with the Falcons and the Chargers at the next level as a punt return specialist. So that's pretty good company there. Of course, the block teams and the coverage teams are going to have their hands full. So they're going to have to gain an edge there. But so make Iowa one-dimensional, establish some rhythm offensively, find your weapons, take advantage of what Iowa doesn't do well, and really just kind of take your game to them. It's the team that's going to be able to force their tempo on the other that's going to win this game. Vanderbilt has a chance. They can turn it up a notch, actually, in this game. They can be the fast team in this game and force Iowa to play at warp speed, which I'm not sure that they can do. But anyway, that's going to be kind of where it's at. And I'm gonna break all this stuff down before kickoff on Wednesday at 11 a.m. here in Nashville, but 12 noon as far as local time in Tampa. So thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Thanks for tuning in. It's gonna be bowl talk. It's gonna be bowl blitz, what to watch for, storylines, keys to the game, why Vanderbilt wins. I'm going to make some college football playoff picks as well moving forward. So you're going to get all of that on this show leading up to the bowl game. And then after the bowl game, it'll be all portal and future talk along with basketball and then baseball when the time comes. All right. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow Locked On Vandy so you get all the latest episodes. Catch the show at Locked On Vandy on all platforms on social media. Did Locked On Vandy make your Spotify Wrapped? Well, prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. Until next time, hope everyone had a great holiday and a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you back here next time. Locked On Vandy. Peace!